talk about water all the time as the main ingredient in most of our styling products, but is water doing more bad than good for your hair? Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Karen with Curl House. I'm a licensed cosmetologist, a certified trichologist, and the owner of the Curl House Hair Restoration Collection and Academy. And today we are going to talk about water for your hair. Now, I know that opening probably had you thinking a little bit like, is water bad for your hair? Well, it could be, and I'm going to tell you why. So wait, hold on. Before I even talk about that, let me talk about water. Like, you know, if you follow me, water is my BFF, like for my body and for my hair. But is it the water that may be damaging your hair, or is it how you use the water? So that's what we are going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to water usage. Water is like the foundation of your hair strand because your hair is made of water. Water contributes to the strength of the hair, to the flexibility of the hair. When you're trying to do that fabulous wash and go, your hair needs to be wet in order to do that. If you're trying to do a two-strand twist, your hair needs to be wet. So it helps your hair to maintain the hairstyles, and it helps with the elasticity of your hair. So if you stretch your hair, it bounces back. Water helps with that too. And of course, it helps to keep your hair from being dry. So water, hydration is what your hair needs. So water to the hair, the good part, that's really easy, right? But what's the bad part? Can water really be bad? So that's a tricky question. Water in and of itself, it's not bad, but it's how you handle your hair when your hair is wet that contributes to the bad. So did you know that when your hair is wet, it is more fragile? It is more prone to breakage because it is just simply weaker. So quite frankly, when you comb your hair wet, it could break off. And when you comb your hair dry, it could break off. So which one is better? I guess the question is not really which one is better. It's how you comb your hair when it is wet. It is so vital that you comb your hair very gently when it is wet. Again, because it's more prone to breakage. So be gentle when you are combing your hair. So if you are not having a good day, if you are in a mood, and if you are not in the mood to properly detangle or comb your hair, don't do it then, because that can cause more breakage. And not only that, when you do comb or detangle your hair, I do recommend that it's wet, but not just wet. You have to apply conditioner to it. Conditioner has conditioning agents that coat that hair strand, give your hair slip, so it actually strengthens the hair during that detangling process or combing or brushing process so that your hair doesn't break off. So if you are gently combing wet hair and applying a conditioner to it, like after you shampoo your hair, then that is going to minimize the breakage that you may be experiencing if the hair is wet. Now, for those of you who comb their hair when it's dry, that's okay too, but I never recommend that you comb it when it is completely dry. So if you want to detangle your hair or comb out your hair some in between shampooing it, make sure you mist it with a little bit of water. Again, water gives the hair flexibility and pliability, and it's going to make that detangling process much easier, and the hair is going to be less susceptible to breakage when you comb or detangle it. Okay, so that was the bad, but it's not really bad, right? So now let's move on to the ugly things about water. Let me ask you something. Have you heard of hygro fatigue? Hygro fatigue. Okay, maybe you haven't. Let me explain it to you. So hygro fatigue is damaging to your hair, and it's what happens when your hair is wet, and the hair expands when it's wet, and then it contracts. So it expands and then it contracts. And over time, that can actually weaken and damage your hair. Let me use this rubber band as an example. So when you wet your hair expands like this. And then when it dries, it contracts. And then you wet it again because you wash your hair, and then it contracts when it dries. wet, expansion, dry, contraction. So imagine this. Think about this rubber band expanding and contracting over and 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 over again. What do you think is going to happen to this rubber band at some point when it keeps doing this? You're right. It's going to break off. That is what happens to your hair. And many times, even before that, before the rubber band actually breaks, the first sign that the rubber band may actually break is that it stops going back to its original size. So I remember I used to wear my hair in this Afro puff all the time. And before I started using satin bands, I would use these elastic bands, and I would use them so much where they would just stretch out of shape and I couldn't use it anymore. That's kind of like the elasticity of your hair. If you're noticing your hair is stretching and not bouncing back or returning to a curly state, or it's just staying kind of limp because it's stretched out of shape, that's a sign that you may be dealing with high growth fatigue. I know that we have to wash our hair. We have to wet it, right? We have to apply moisturizers to it. We've applied leave-in conditioners to it. So we have to wet it, but there are some things that you can do to minimize that high growth fatigue. And the first thing that you can do is to pre-poo. So pre-poo means applying something to your hair before you actually shampoo it. So in this case, I'm referring to applying a penetrating oil to your hair anywhere from 1 to 8 hours, preferably 8 hours, before you shampoo. And the pre-poo oils that I recommend is coconut oil. If you hate coconut oil, then you can try babasu oil. Apply these oils to your hair before you shampoo. So it's best to apply it maybe the night before you shampoo, so that gives it time for the oil to actually penetrate the hair strand overnight. But if you don't have 8 to 10 hours, then do it at least an hour in advance. What it does, it minimizes that onslaught or that uptake of water to the hair, minimizing that swelling process. And as a result, it minimizes protein loss, because when you wet your hair, you do lose protein. Did you know that? Yes, you do. So if you can minimize that protein loss, then that's actually going to keep your hair healthy, and it's going to minimize the breakage from the water when you actually wet your hair. And when I'm talking about the water from wetting your hair, I'm really primarily referring to like shampoo day, when you have this onslaught of water, when you saturate your hair with water. I'm not talking about misting your hair day to day when you spray your leave-in conditioner, or even applying a leave-in conditioner to your hair every day if that's what you have to do. I'm not talking about that, because leave-in conditioners and daily moisturizers and stuff like that, they have other ingredients in them instead of just water. So I'm really referring to your shampoo day. So you can minimize high growth fatigue by doing a pre-poo. The second thing that you can do is to really consider how long your hair dries. So even if you are a person that lets your hair air dry, if you have thick hair, if you have a lot of hair, if it takes your hair a long time to dry, you may want to consider getting a hand dryer and a diffuser and drying your hair a little bit some, so that it's not totally dry. Then let it air dry, or of course you can sit under a hooded dryer for 10 or 15 minutes to get some of that moisture out. Apply some type of heat to your hair as opposed to letting it air dry all day if you are someone who has thick hair and it takes a long time for your hair to dry. And the third thing that you can do if you're dealing with high growth fatigue is to do a protein treatment. So again, as I said earlier, when your hair is wet, it does lose some protein. And if you feel like your hair is lacking the elasticity, your hair might be over moisturized as well, a protein treatment is what you need to strengthen the hair. If you're looking for a protein treatment, I'll drop one below in the description. So water is our BFF, but make sure it stays your BFF by using it properly. The very last thing as it relates to water is chlorine in the water. Chlorine can be ugly. on your hair. So how do you get chlorine in water? Of course, from the pool. So if you are someone who swims, we are rolling into the summertime pretty soon. So if you are someone who swims, make sure you wear a swim cap to minimize the onslaught of that chlorine into your hair. I'm actually going to create a whole video on swimming and how to protect your hair during swimming. But until then, make sure you wear a swim cap. And then also there may be chlorine in your shower water as well that gets into your hair, causing breakage. So if that is the case, make sure you invest in a good quality shower filter. I'll make sure I drop that below as well in the description. And if you don't know, I am undergoing a rebrand. Yay! So I am rebranding my product line. So if you go to my website, you'll see some things, or most things, are actually out of stock. The only thing that is in stock is my #1 staple product, my follicle stimulating growth drops. But everything else is on hold, and I'm in the process of releasing new products. So if you want to be a part of my grand re-release party, my launch party, I encourage you to join my waitlist above so that you can be notified when I do release my new product line coming this summer. Okay guys, until we talk again, stay back.